The Blues had quite a bad loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. There were some good things, and I'm going to talk about it coming up here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a happy Wednesday, October 2nd. Welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's episode of Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk about the loss of the Blue Jackets. Also, I have the full Bannister post-game media availability to play for you all. So that's a little bit over 3 minutes. I will also share my biggest concerns before the start of the regular season, which is only 6 days away. And of course, my confidence meter now heading into the season after I saw a veteran lineup last night that should have performed better. I will talk about that. Trust me, I have a lot to say. However, I just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with a $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As I said, I hope everybody is having a happy Wednesday, October 2nd. Now, 6 days away from the first regular season game, which is so insane to me. I feel like whatever reason, this offseason, even this training camp has really sped by. However, it goes without saying that there is still some stuff left. What exactly is that? Well, there are a few games that the Blues have to face. One against the Dallas Stars at home tomorrow, then on the road against the Blackhawks on Saturday. And then Tuesday, regular season begins in Seattle for an afternoon puck drop, the first puck drop of the National Hockey League. But within these next 6 days, the Blues do have some stuff that they need to work on. I'm going to tell you about that loss from last night, things that I liked, things that I didn't like, and most importantly, hearing what Drew Bannister has to say and reacting to that. So one thing that I took a lot of notes throughout the game. That's one thing I do. So I'm not always live tweeting. I need to get better at live tweeting. I just take notes on my computer in Google Docs during games. So one of my big notes that I had was that Zachary Balduke had a really nice shot off the post in the first period, which I actually thought was quite impressive with his positioning. And even looking back at that, rewatching and re-listening and kind of reevaluating, I think that's one thing that Zach Bolduc has done a good job of throughout this training camp is his positioning. And he's shown that, last season, yes, he had all right positioning, but during these exhibition games, these preseason games, he has really made himself known in front of the net. So I like that a lot from him. Obviously, we had Joel Hofer in net. You know, the two goals I got by him, like the one, yeah, you can blame it on the defense, and then the other one was off the face off, the second one. He's still a good goalie. I don't think that there's any reason to be concerned. I think that the defense just didn't play that great last night. And then obviously, if you watch the game, the final goal was an empty netter, which I didn't know if they should have counted that one, but I just got in the nick of time for Columbus. But yeah, it was only 2 goals, so the Blues just had to score more. Speaking of scoring, one thing that I liked a lot was the Justin Folk slap shot power play goal. So Jordan Kyrou kept it in play, and then Thomas passed it to Neighbors. Now, I thought Neighbors was going to take it as a one-timer, and then he passed it off to Justin Folk, and then Folk was able to slap shot that poke in the net, making it 1-0. So that was the first goal of the game, too. I was impressed by Jake Neighbors on that play. Besides Kyrou, I kind of expect what Kyrou can do, so I was impressed by him. But with how Robert Thomas passed it, it really did look like it was set up just to be hidden. But I think that Neighbors saw, Folk's positioning and that he was open and passed it. So that's growth on his end, honestly. One thing that kind of annoyed me, there was a shot attempt from Captain Braden Shen, and Robert Thomas was by the net wide open and completely missed it. So it was a missed opportunity. That kind of bothered me. I'm the biggest Robert Thomas fan, and I will go on this podcast and say that because we all know how I feel about Robert Thomas. It is always Robert Thomas season. However, that was a play where I thought it was very reasonable to expect that he would at least attempt to get the puck in the back of the net with how he was positioned on the post. So it could have just been a fluke. It could have been, that he just couldn't get control of it. I don't know, but it was very un-Robert Thomas-like of him, and that drew a little bit of concerns for me. Other takeaways that I had from the game is that the vets didn't really show up in a veteran lineup. So I was a little disappointed in that. And then poor passes and a lot of missed chances. It wasn't just that one play by Thomas, it was throughout the whole game. It just seemed like the Blues were kind of a speed behind Columbus, if that makes sense, where Columbus was putting in all this effort, exhibiting all this effort, and the Blues kind of just took a step back. Now, I'm sure that they're going to say that they put their, hardest working selves on the ice. I know Broberg was talking and he was basically saying that they worked hard and it just, didn't happen the way that it should have and all that. We got to work harder. The typical things that you say when you lose a game. I just don't want this to be the pattern heading into this season because that makes me nervous. So I'm going to play for you what Coach Bannister had to say after the game. I will then share some thoughts, and then I will dive into my biggest concerns heading into the season. Here's Coach Drew Bannister. Again, all credit goes to the Blues PR and all of the Blues media.
Is there anything you take away from that one tonight, or
well, it's
what you saw in the first 3 games?
yeah. I mean, it's disappointing. I mean, I thought we took a step forward last game in the way we played, especially in the last 40 minutes, and I thought tonight we took a step backwards. We didn't drive enough plays. We didn't, force ourselves to get into the fight. I thought it seemed like we were looking for an easy game, and there are no easy games regardless of the competition or what part of the season, preseason, regular season, and we're a week away from starting the season, and it didn't look that way tonight.
How much did that have to do with not generating a lot of even strength offense?
Well, I think it all combines. It's not the offense, it's defense, but it's lack of execution. I think we're a much faster team, but we look slow tonight. We moved the puck slow. We didn't support each other, so there was a lot of things went into play for our overall game.
The obvious disappointment in your voice, the power play goal.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta like that. You see that all season. 20 passes I counted, on that possession there. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I thought they moved the puck well in that situation, and they got rewarded. And but I thought, not even talking about our power play, but we were reluctant to shoot pucks, and just our habits in our game, our puck placement, to be able to get to a forecheck, just small things that I thought we weren't strong on the wall. So, we ended up chasing the game more than being able to, take over the game in that game.
How do you balance the disappointment you have and urgency with knowing that it is still Game 5 of the preseason, or is there any sort of balance there to be had?
Yeah, I mean, you got to take a step back, but at the end of the day, like we have to get ourselves going, and this isn't the way that you're going to have success starting the season if you think you're just going to turn it on when the season starts. We have to get ourselves up to speed here and quickly.
Does that make Thursday's game a pretty big one in your mind? I mean, it could be the last time you see the NHL.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Dallas is going to bring a pretty competitive team here, and we plan to put a competitive team on the ice, and, it's got to start with us willing to work and compete, and everything else will fall into place.
The 3 D guys fighting for a job, did they show you anything?
I don't think it's a time to single 1 or 2 or 3 guys out. I think overall I'm just disappointed with the whole group right now. Like, I expect more from our group.
Is that kind of, puzzling, I guess, because you talked about the practice habits seem really good, but it's just not translating into games right now.
And it hasn't. So we'll continue to push our guys and, in practice until we see that translate to our games. That's the only way to do it. Like, we'll continue to compete and we'll continue to work, and we got to see the results on the ice in games. We don't get any points in practice, so We need to come out and play and be ready to play when the puck drops for the games.
Did you like anything?
I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't think we played well, and credit to them, they outworked us, and they came to work, and we weren't ready to work.
Thank you, Mr.
So as you heard, Bannister was very disappointed, and he said a few things that I was actually thinking myself, but I do want to play every so often post-game availability, and I really like this one, and I feel like he hit it spot on, so I wanted to play it in full. But anyways, I'm going to talk to you about my biggest concerns with the Blues because I do have quite a few, as I did mention. But again, thanks again to the Blues PR and media staff. Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing that I love a lot about Gametime Picks is this super deal and how good it is. This is the best deal ever because it shows you curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats, seat views before you buy, and Gametime, like always, has their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. Okay? One thing that I love too about Gametime is that it shows you all of the fees, all that you're going to be paying that's included in the ticket price. So there's no guessing when you go to checkout and you're like, okay, well, how much is it going to be? Gametime lets you know before you even make that decision. So this is what I need you to do. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. One thing that Coach Bannister was saying that I really felt was how well they've been doing at practice, right? I've spoke about this, all the reports that come out of practice. The Blues are doing really well on this drill and this type of play, and this player looks good. We don't see that in the games. And we see it in the games for maybe some of the younger players. I know we saw it from Holloway recently, but we don't see it from some of the veterans that we expect to see good play from. And I think Bannister hit it very spot on that this is something that they need to continue to work on, but there is a reason to be disappointed. I think that, he made another point. You just can't turn it on when the regular season begins. And I think that's what a lot of people have been saying. I know in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, they'll be fine once it's regular season. And it's not a dig on Columbus in any way. It's not a dig. Honestly, they only won one preseason game, the Blues. So it's really on the Blues. But even some of the teams that didn't do well last season are beating the Blues out. And I'm not just saying by score, but just speed on the ice and just other things, face-offs even. And it does make me concerned that when it becomes the regular season, are the Blues just going to continue to sink? They haven't shown me much of anything that's good. I know I talked about how, the other game they did well in the power play, despite the fact that they didn't score. You can still do well in a power play, not score, I guess, right? Anything is an improvement from last season. But it's little things like that. I want to say that I'm confident. I want to say that I'm ready for the regular season. However, I need St. Louis to perform better. I don't think Robert Thomas, and I love Robert Thomas, and I talk about him all the time on this podcast. I always say it's Robert Thomas season. Well, I'm not seeing what I used to see out of Robert Thomas. I'm not seeing the player that, speeds down and chases pucks and makes his presence known. I don't see that. I think that when you have I think every single player last night actually did play a regular NHL game last season. You expect more out of them. And that's it. You can't use the excuses of, oh, well, they've only played in juniors. Oh, they've only played in the AHL. No, when you have a roster of players that are NHL players, okay, there is no excuse for the little things. There's no excuse for bad passing the way that it was last night. Justin Folk, actually, I have to say he looked good, and he'd probably be my MVP of last night if I had to choose one player on the Blues. not just because of the goal, but just overall, he's looking back to his normal healthy self. Well, I mean, he is healthy again, but he's just looking back to his old self. So I did like that. Hofer, I mean, the defense wasn't great, but I still don't feel I feel fine about him, right? Um, I can't be too nitpicky, and I feel like that's my one problem. But I mean, Braden Shen had a couple good attempts, but I wasn't overly impressed with Boosh. I wasn't overly impressed really with anyone. I think that individually, yes, some of the players had good individual plays, but I'm talking about consistency throughout the whole game, and that is my issue. What if the Blues are in this slump and it's not just, oh, well, it's preseason? What if there is some issues with this team and how they're performing? And when they get ready to take on the crack and they're not able to do what they've said they're going to do all off season, which is play good hockey and win games. And this is what lost some games last season. It wasn't the fact that they don't have enough talent. They have talent. They have enough talent on that team to win games. It's what we saw when I was annoyed with the San Jose losses. It was what I saw when I was annoyed against that loss against the Islanders. I don't like saying the word lazy. However, it is not putting in the full effort. And I think that's what the Blues' problem was. I think that's what they ran into last season, is that there was glimpses of them not putting in enough effort. And as a fan, you want to see your team exhibit enough effort. You want to see them maintain the speed on the ice, crisp, clean passing. When you see, I don't want to say out of control passing, or I don't want to say like just impulsive, but when you see them kind of start to struggle and panic a little bit, it does draw concerns. And I think what Drew Bannister said was spot on. I mean, the disappointment is real. I mean, yes, it's one thing to have good camps, right? I think training camp is very important. I think it sets the tone for the season. But at the same time, you could have the best individual training camp, but as a team, if you're not able to exhibit what you've done in camp, if you're not able to look like you have chemistry, if you're not able to play good group hockey, yeah, I'm not going to be overly impressed. And it makes me very nervous about the regular season. I felt really good this offseason. The offer sheets made me excited. And now I'm kind of like, okay. Well, they have Dallas on Thursday at home, last home preseason game, and then they're on the road against Chicago for their final preseason game. I need to see this team look a million times better than I did last night. It's just frustrating. And there's not a specific play where I kind of thought to myself there was not enough effort. It was just kind of overall, after watching the game, because I was able to get onto a VPN. Welcome to my life. But after watching the game, I thought to myself, I was like, just seemed like C level effort. Okay. And I think that concern with the effort, that's a legit thing. And I think that's a very fixable thing. I don't think, for instance, with Robert Thomas, I can't come on this podcast and say, oh, he's not good at passing. He's not good at, shooting. I can't say that because he is good at all that. But it just wasn't clicking last night. A lot of it was not clicking. And I'm frustrated as a fan. I'm frustrated as a podcast host that talks about the Blues daily because I wanted to come on here so badly today and say, you know what, Neil, that we have a mostly veteran. Well, we have not even a mostly, we have a veteran lineup last night. They performed well. All of my concerns about the what ifs are now taken to bed because there's no AHL or juniors guys in this lineup, and I feel confident. That's what I wanted to say today. I can't say that today, and I haven't. Because that's not what happened, and I think that's what's the most frustrating part about this, is that we all thought the problem with them not maybe playing as well in the preseason had to do with them having those mix of guys that were in juniors or the AHL, and now that we know, hey, maybe it wasn't really them, right? Maybe the vets are just not having something click. I thought they played well, actually. In the first period for a little bit. I mean, still sloppiness, but they looked decent enough. But that Folk goal was good. that's the issue. Like, there was little things that were good, but overall, it just seemed like a lack of effort. So, let me know your thoughts. I know it's disappointing and I know it sucks, and trust me, I've been very annoyed about it, but what can we do, right? Okay. Like, I sound so negative. I'm frustrated, St. Louis. I am frustrated. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season off with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. I talk to you about FanDuel all the time, right? I tell you it is the best because I love my same game parlays. Well, lucky for you, because today is Wednesday. Tomorrow it is the Falcons and Bucks. However, I think that the Bucks are going to win coming into Atlanta, so I would place the Bucks money line. Now, you might say, Hale, I don't feel 100% confident when it comes to that. Totally fine. Luckily, with FanDuel, you can place that as the game is going on. So it allows you to bet even when the game is still in action. So make sure to check out FanDuel.com and use that code LOCKEDONNHL. So a lot's been happening, right? We have, our first season, our first game of the season in a week. We have a lot going on. And one thing that I want to say is that I am still optimistic when it comes to a couple players. And Bannister spoke about Holloway and Texier and being evaluated. We've been impressed with them. Now it's only if I could speak. We're impressed with them. Now can they go up from there and make a difference to give them an opportunity? But we've been happy with the way that they played, and I think it's really important to give them those reps, opportunities to players that come in and play well. So I do think that it's really important that we, again, remember when it does come to the team. I'm a huge Holloway fan, and I hope he makes it. And I do think that Bannister is very fair, and he's like, hey, if you're going to play hard, you're going to end up making it. He also spoke on some lines. I think we did that yesterday, trying to get some life into our group. Today is a new day, and yesterday was yesterday. We've moved up and on from that. I thought our group had a good response on the ice. Guys worked hard, and they got what they needed. So I'm going to tell you the lines from today. On that top line, Holloway, Thomas, Neighbors. Kind of like that. Second line, Texier, Bush, Cairo. Third line, Joseph, Shen, Kapanen. That's not happening. Fourth line, Turpochenko, Foxa, Walker. Kind of interesting, right? And then fifth line, Sod, Dean, Bull, Duke. And then obviously Sundqvist. Well, he's there. He just obviously can't play a preseason game. So then on defense, Letty Pareko, Broberg, Folk, Suter, Kessel, Joseph, Perunovic. Here's the thing. I really like that they're giving Dylan Holloway a fair look. I think that's actually very beneficial. And I think that it just kind of goes on to what Bannister had to say. Hey, we're going to evaluate Holloway and Texier. But I think just giving them line 1 and line 2 with Holloway on line 1 and Texier on line 2 just goes. They really are evaluating them to see if they can play with the big guys up here in St. Louis to start with the season. I really think that Holloway is going to make the team. I really have a good feeling about him. I mean, he has been one of the top 5 players, I would say, during these preseason games for the Blues in terms of overall execution. So I'm a huge Holloway fan. I just sneezed and I paused it, but I don't know if you caught that or not. That might have happened on camera, but yeah, huge Holloway fan. So very happy with that. The lines today make me feel better. So if you had to give me a confidence meter, St. Louis, because I wanted to do a confidence meter about how I feel going into this regular season, out of 10, I am going to give it a 6.2. It's like, have you seen the Costco guys and they do boom or doom? So it's like boom or doom. And then it's like a boom meter and it's like boom, boom, boom. Okay. That's what I was thinking of. Because last night watching the game, I was like, oh no, this is a doom. My double chong chocolate cookie. Well, no. Okay. Well, you get what I'm saying. That was the first thing that came into my head. And today when I was telling my friends about the game last night, I'm like, I felt like it was the doom meter game. And they were like, what? And I'm like, okay, I have to do this on my podcast. But yes. Um, everything's connected. No, but let me know how you feel about this upcoming season. Did last night make you nervous? Did it make you feel a little bit more worrisome? I know it did for me. I know preseason doesn't count, and I'm like the biggest advocate on that one when it comes to scores and overall points. However, what I saw on the ice last night, besides a score, I did not like. So let me know your thoughts on that, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Like always, let's go Blues.